Hello everybody, Maven here, and welcome back to part 2 of a 3-part series where I'm doing Strand builds for all 3 characters. And in the first episode I did Titan, so if you want to check that out, I'll link it in the card up above, I'll link it down below in the description and in the pinned comment. And today we are doing a Warlock next, so let's get to it. Hope you enjoy. So this build is a melee spam build with the Necrotic Grip Gloves, as well as the exotic Sidearm, the Final Warning. And if you do not know how to get this Sidearm, you just simply have to unlock all of your Strand Fragments, and it'll just instantly give you the quest. And thank goodness Bungie released all of the Fragments early. And I did post a farm guide yesterday on how to solo farm Strand Meditations, as well as Neomuna Reputation. And I'll link that video in the card up above, as well as in the link down below. So this build is entirely based around the Arcane Needle ability and being able to spam it as much as we possibly can. So this melee will unravel targets, meaning that when you deal damage to them, they will shoot out those little Siva nanite things that seek out other targets from a pretty long distance and start damaging them, and it just helps ad clear the whole room. And you combine that along with Necrotic Grip's poison effect when you deal damage to an enemy with the melee, which it doesn't actually say that here, but it does have to be with the melee. They will take poison damage, and when they die, they will explode with more poison and spread poison to other combatants. And yeah, that combined with the Unravel just clears out entire hordes of enemies, and you saw that during the intro footage. So I wanted to show you this quick clip really quick. I'm watching it along with you as we go, but I'm about to fight this boss here, and this is another niche that this build kind of fills. But if you're fighting a very tanky boss that happens to be surrounded by smaller trash mobs, you can inadvertently do a ton of damage to that boss just because this build spreads around so much unraveling and so much poison from the Necrotic Grips. So look at the amount of damage I do to this boss with my super and my rocket, and that's where we stop. So we get him down to his final bar health, and then I do not even hit the boss at all anymore. I'm just ad clearing. I'm just trying to survive. And in this part right here, we get a little bit of a lag spike. Don't worry, that's not you. That's on my end. It just happened. But yeah, I'm not even hitting the boss anymore. He had a full bar of health, and wait for it. There it is. You hear him? He just dies. He still had a third of his health, and I didn't even damage him. It's just because of all the poison that this build spreads around, you inadvertently, accidentally do so much damage to things you're not even fighting. It's crazy. And another cool way that the Necrotic Grip synergizes with Strand is that not only does it work with your Arcane Needle, but it also works with your grenade ability, the grapple, because as you know, there's that new mechanic, the grapple punches. So your nade is also a melee. So if you see a bunched up group of enemies, you simply just go grapple punch them and they just all explode with poison. Now here is my mod setup. Before we go in depth talking about the mods, we first have to talk about how we came to the conclusion that we are using the Final Warning with this build. Now I'm gonna post a YouTube Shorts video on this later, but there is actually a hidden perk about Strand weapons that many people don't know about, is that if you happen to get a triple kill with a Strand weapon, you will get granted unraveling rounds. So that is very strong for ad clear. Obviously you want to spawn those seekers and do some heavy ad clear with that. But also when you kill an unraveled enemy, they will spawn a Tangle. And Tangles are very important for this build because of Thread of Fury. Now, Thread of Fury says that damaging a target with a Tangle grants melee energy, and it is a significant enough amount of melee energy to warrant building around Tangles here. So I'll show a clip right here. I'm going to throw a Tangle at a target, and I get about 40% of my melee back. And it does stack for each target you hit, so if you hit a group of adds, you will get up to a maximum of an entire melee charge back, so that is pretty worth running. Although Final Warning is not the only Strand weapon that I would consider running with this build, because there is also the Quicksilver Storm with the Catalyst that makes it become a Strand weapon, as well as when you get a kill with a grenade launcher mode of this weapon, it will spawn a Tangle. So that is very consistent Tangle generation for your melee energy. So that's very good. And you could use either one of these weapons. I wouldn't argue with either. So it all comes down to which one of these you prefer. Now there are a couple more options here, although they are not Strand, but they are pretty solid. The Osteo Striga can help spread even more poison to do even heavier ad clear, and again, very, very good at collating the whole room. I would not argue if you ran the Osteo Striga, very solid, except it just won't get unraveling rounds, nor will the Monte Carlo, but again, the Monte Carlo generates a ton of melee energy as you damage targets with it, so it's a pretty solid option as well. Now, why would you consider running the Final Warning over the Quicksilver Storm? And we got to talk about it because it is a brand new weapon. So the way this weapon works is that when your crosshair passes over a target, doesn't matter if you're aiming down sights or not, just as long as your crosshair passes in the line of sight of a target, you will see a marker come up that starts out white and eventually goes to red. Once the marker goes to red, that means that it is now locking onto them. So that brings us to the perk Pick Your Poison. So you can either choose to hip fire that marked target or aim down sights at that marked target, and they have different properties. So when you hip fire, it'll track them like crazy hard. Like you can literally be all the way around a corner, turned 90 degrees to the left or right, and it'll still just track them, and it'll do increased hip fire body shot damage. That's if you suck at aiming or if you're in a hectic situation. Now, if you aim down sights, if you're close enough, it deals extra precision damage, so it does pretty heavy damage. And that heavy damage from aiming down sights is the one reason why you'd possibly consider running the Final Warning over the Quicksilver Storm. But also something that you need to know about the Final Warning is that it states that you have to hit a fully charged burst in order to unravel the enemy, and killing an unravel enemy is what's going to create a Tangle. So unfortunately, if you hit a fully charged burst on like a very weak red bar and you kill them on the very first shot, they will never get a chance to unravel, so you won't get a Tangle. In order to get that Tangle, they have to survive the first shot to become unraveled, and then you can go ahead and kill them and you'll get that Tangle. So we're going to do a quick damage test against Carl here, and I'm going to suspend him just to make this easier. So we can kill him in 4 bursts, which is 2 clips of Sidearm. And it is just wild that you can kill Carl with 2 clips of a Sidearm. And to show you just how insane that is, I'm going to shoot him with a rocket launcher. This is the Roar of the Bear, which is a high impact frame with impact casing with major spec, and Carl is a major, and let's see how many rockets it takes to kill him. So I rocket, suspend, rocket to proc Demolitionist, and it takes just over 3 rockets to kill Carl. So would you rather spend 3 clips of a rocket launcher or 2 clips of a Sidearm? Your choice. And you might be wondering how much damage the Quicksilver Storm does, so we'll test that as well. And as you can see, it does some very, very solid damage as well, and also outpaces the rocket launcher, just like the Final Warning. So the Quicksilver Storm is a very great option, and I personally am probably going to use this one. But at the end of the day, it's really which one you prefer. And remember, both of these guns have their own ways to generate Tangles. And another big reason you might want to use a Strand weapon with this build over a kinetic is that there's a couple fragments that synergize with Strand weapons, like Thread of Rebirth. Strand weapon final blows have a chance to create a threadling, which helps with ad clear. Those threadlings do a decent amount of damage. And then there's Thread of Propagation. Powered melee final blows grant your Strand weapons unraveling rounds. So again, very strong for ad clear. But then again, the Osteo Striga alone has its own form of heavy ad clear, so you can make an argument for that one too. And then our last fragment here, Thread of Generation, is just self-explanatory. Just straight up dealing damage generates grenade energy, and seeing as how we have those little unraveling nanites flying around damaging the whole entire room, it just racks up that grenade energy very easily. And speaking of grenades, I would highly recommend going with the Shackle Grenade if you're doing higher and more difficult level content, because being able to suspend a yellow bar that is destroying your face so that you can just wail on it with your special or heavy is going to be a pretty solid thing to do. But if you're doing lower level content or higher ad clear based content, then grapple punching and the grapple for the movement is also very good. And the Shackle Grenade does synergize for lower level content and higher level content in another way. With Mindspun's Invocation, it's our aspect, and you can consume your Shackle Grenade by holding your grenade button to gain Weaver's Trance. It is a buff that shows up on the left side of your screen, and it lasts a long time. I think it's like 25 seconds or something like that. And Final Blows, while it's active, is going to create a suspending detonation. So anything around the target you killed will get suspended. So if you see a fatter target, just kill a little trash mob next to it and it'll suspend that as well as anything else in the area. So it's pretty solid. But also Mind Spun will make your grapple spawn 3 threadlings, which is also very good for ad clear. And of course, Weaver's Call, our rift creates threadlings, again, good for ad clear. And we want to use our rift as much as we possibly can because that brings us to our mod setup. So let's talk about it. Now, when we use our rift ability, it is doing 3 different things that are on our class item here. Utility Kickstart, we gain some rift energy back when we cast a rift. We get some grenade energy back when we cast a rift, and we get some melee energy back when we cast a rift. So that's why we want to use our rift every chance that we get it, so that we can get some ability cooldown for everything, as well as making threadlings. And then the other armor piece where all the magic happens is our gloves. So we got grenade kickstart, use our shackle or our grapple, and that's going to give us some grenade energy back. And then since we are using our melee ability as much as we possibly can, that is going to take advantage of these 2 perks here, impact induction and focusing strike. When we damage with our melee, we're going to get some grenade energy back and some class ability energy back. So you can sort of chain abilities with these mods on your gloves and these mods on your boots. And this is a setup of mods that I'd recommend not only on this build, but just on every build in the game. It's just the way to go nowadays. And then for the rest of our mod setup here, we are running an armor charge setup with charged up on our chest piece so that we can carry up to 5 stacks of armor charge. And then we got stacks on our boots. So we pick up Norma Power, we get 2 stacks of armor charge instead of just 1. Helps us get the stacks quicker. And then we are expending all of the stacks of armor charge via Strand Weapon Surge. So basically it's just going to power up our Final Warning or our Quicksilver Storm pretty much at all times. And I realized my helmet was a little bit wrong and I had to do a little adjustment, but the way that we are making Orbs of Power is via the Siphon mods on our helmet. We got Harmonic Siphon, so our Strand Weapon double kills are going to make Orbs, as well as our Void Weapon double kills, and we are running 2 Void Weapons as well. And then we have Heavy Ammo Finder, just because we had enough energy to do so. And on our chest we are running Void Reserves, just again, because we had enough energy to do so. Also, we are running double Void Weapons. And we are aiming for triple 100 stats in recovery, discipline, and strength. Unfortunately, this is the best I could do, but I would definitely prioritize recovery and strength. And for the rest of my weapons, I opted for a Blinding Grenades Wilder Flight. And if you have a Truth Teller, that works as well. And the reason Blinding is pretty decent here is because, for example, if you're using the Final Warning, it takes a while to do its charge shot, so you're kind of sitting in the face of danger. But if you blind them, you can just sit in their face all day, just charging shots at them without any danger. But it also kind of synergizes with the Quicksilver Storm as well, because like I said, the blast radius on these grenade launcher shots on it are pretty rough to land. So if they're staying still blinded, you can just land those grenade shots on them, as well as just charge up your grenade shots. And for my heavy, I opted for an auto-loading holster Void rocket launcher. That's what I'd recommend, but any Void launcher is fine. There's also the craftable one, the Red Herring. So that is going to do it for this build. As always, if you have any ideas on how to possibly improve upon this build, let me know in the comments. I'd like to try it out. And as always, I will leave a dim loadout link to this build in the description and in the pinned comment if you'd like to give it a try. I would highly recommend this build for heavy ad clear activities. So that concludes our Strand Warlock build. A couple days ago, I uploaded a Strand Titan build, and in the coming day or 2, I will be uploading a Strand Hunter build, so look forward to that. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. Would love to have you here, and also would love for you to catch that Strand Hunter build when it comes out. And also when all 3 of those Strand videos have been out, and I've personally played with all these builds and tested them, I will make a follow-up video determining which of the 3 Strand characters I feel is the strongest. So it will be kind of like an overview of Strand in general. And that about wraps up the video, so thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to hit the like button and drop a comment, because interacting with the video in those kinds of ways really helps it out, helps the algorithm. And with that, I'll catch you in the next video. Later.